And hello everybody, it's Terrible Shoes back at it again, and for today's video we're going to be doing a little bit more of an in-depth review of Pokémon Legends ZA, now that I have completed the game in its entirety for the most part, and I'm on my way to getting the Shiny Charm. I'd like to give some refined opinions here from my other review, and talk about a few things that I couldn't in the last one because I didn't want to spoil anything. So there will be spoilers in here just as a heads up for anyone who hasn't beaten the game yet. So let's start talking about the game right away. I'm Terrible Shoes. Please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps me out a ton and encourages me to make more videos. So I am going to start off by saying I completed this game on the Nintendo Switch 2. I did the Nintendo Switch 2 edition of this game, not the Nintendo Switch 1. So my performance might have been a little bit different than some other people who played. So just take that in as a factor as well. And I'm going to start off by talking about Legends ZA's story mode, which I think has its ups and downs here and there. I am going to keep my opinion from my first video that the first hour and a half or so of this game is borderline unplayable due to the way it is structured. And I do completely mean that. It is almost a non-stop barrage of cutscenes. You walk for 20 steps, you have a 5-minute long cutscene. You walk another 20 steps just to be greeted by another 5-minute long cutscene. This is insufferable, and it's horrible, and it is made even worse by the fact that there isn't any voice acting. I am actually going to say this straight up. This game needed voice acting badly, and the fact that Game Freak and Pokemon didn't spend the money to actually put any in here is actually mind-blowing to me. It doesn't make a lick of sense. I don't understand it, and it's really stupid, and it detracts from the overall experience, at least at this point in the game. When you're getting introduced to everybody, it isn't fun to read endless walls of text without actually being able to play the game. This is not a visual novel. This is a game where you go out and actually do stuff, and it is incredibly aggravating to walk, like I said, 15 steps here and there, only to watch people talk for 5 minutes straight, and then rinse and repeat for an hour before you actually get to do anything. That is a crazy decision on Game Freak's part, and I will never understand why they did this. Getting that out of the way, the rest of the story is actually very charming and fun, and I had a great time overall playing this game. The characters were very fun. I really liked Naveen. I thought he was actually a hilarious character from start to finish. The whole being a tier 3 sub to a streamer who is obsessed with her and kind of in like a parasocial relationship thing, I thought was kind of funny, and it reflects a lot of people in real life today. And I'm glad that they were actually brave enough to take a take a jab at something like that, because I feel like it would upset a lot of people that were like that, and but it ended up working out very well in the end. Working through the story itself, you defeat a large amount of rogue Mega Evolution Pokemon that keep popping up. The strategy meetings, once again, are borderline unbearable. They need voice acting. This game desperately needed voice acting, and it hurts it a lot in the long run to not have it. But as we progress through the story, you meet a lot of really interesting characters. There's the Rust Syndicate. There is a Z, obviously, a lot of returning characters from X and Y, and I think a lot of them are portrayed very well here. I really liked Mabel in the story as well. There is just a lot of fun to be had here, and the story, in my opinion, is actually very well written. The Legends games have this really, really, really great way of telling the story, because Arceus did the same thing. I loved Arceus' story. And it's a very, very fun and interesting game that like I've said, it is unfortunately held back by voice acting not being present. But if you can look past the voice acting not being present, it is a lot of fun. And there's a lot of actually really interesting and funny moments that take place. The ending to the game, at least the story ending, is very sad. Anyone, again, this is going to be spoilery, so please, if you haven't beaten the game, come back after you have. AZ passing away and passing his curse on to Lysander is a very, very interesting thing, and I'm curious to see what will happen in future games if he will return. I think that would be really cool. It is, he kind of gives like a Volo vibe now, like a calmer version of that. So hopefully they'll do something with him, Mr. L, later in another Legends game. All in all, that's the story. Wow, I can't believe I spent this much time talking about the story. Moving on to gameplay. The gameplay loop is incredibly satisfying and fun in this game. Daytimes are spent catching your wild Pokemon, exploring the city, and then night times are spent in the ZA Royale or the Infinite Royale once you complete the game. While the Infinite Royale, I'm going to be completely real, will start to get a little repetitive at the end because you have to do so many challenger tickets to get the final mega evolution for the game, basically, which is the Floette from AZ. You have to get 15 challenger tickets, although I will say this, I found that I was able to build them up very quickly. And you will also need to partake in the ZA Royale for the Shiny Charm, as well as you will need to complete 2,000 full battles in order to get the charm. Now, that might seem kind of crazy, and that's because it is. It is a ridiculous number. And that is why I encourage people to, even when you're not attempting to get a challenger ticket, please do your battles so you don't have to grind them all at the very end of the game and you end up slogging through it. Catching wild Pokemon is just as satisfying as it was in Arceus. There's a lot of great Pokemon to catch out in the wild, and shiny hunting is actually incredibly easy in this game, even without the charm. And that is entirely by design from Game Freak, and it is a great change because now shiny Pokemon do not despawn unless you don't catch them, they run away, or you intentionally let them die. But also, story mode wise with gameplay, there's a lot of really fun battles, there's a lot of really strong trainers, but of course, like any Pokemon game, if you train your guys up high enough, you're going to slam through everything. Again, you got to remember these games are mostly made for young children, so they are a bit on the easier side. There is some post-game stuff that is a little bit more challenging, but even then, I feel like most players won't have any issue with it. I will say this though, I found myself actually having to use potions and revives in this game, unlike most other Pokemon games, so I suppose that is somewhat of a step up in the difficulty. It's a step in the right direction, but I really, really wish they would give you the option for a hard mode or something similar where the Pokemon hit a little harder and, you have to think a little bit harder about what you're going to do. You can't just spam moves like a lot of people do. Let's see. Graphics. Ooh, this is a big one. A lot of people got really upset about this one when the game came out, and I actually completely understand why. That is because the Nintendo Switch 1 version of this game absolutely held back the Nintendo Switch 2 version. It was made into a lot of flat textures in order to get the entire map to load in one shot, and they are very flat. And while I do really like the art style for the characters and the Pokemon themselves, a lot of Lumiose does not look particularly great graphically, but I will say this, the art style does lend to this by making it a little bit less noticeable while you're actually playing the game. You really have to stop and stare at things in order to see how muddy or not great the textures are. I've always been a big graphics are not the end-all be-all of a game, and I do believe that here too, but this is something I wanted to discuss as well, as Nintendo has recently announced that they will be switching their focus of development entirely over to the Nintendo Switch 2 for the most part, and this is something I am glad to hear, because when games are being made for the prior generational system, it always shows. Graphics are always held back on the version for the stronger console that it's made, and ZA very clearly was downscaled graphically and be able to run well on the Switch 1, which is a little upsetting in my opinion, because while I understand this game was originally a Switch 1 game, I really, really wish it wasn't. I really wish this game was developed for the Switch 2, and I think it would have, I don't know, I feel like if they took a little bit more time, the game could have looked better if it was a Switch 2 exclusive, but hopefully now that this is, this little era of dual console games is coming to a close, hopefully we will see far crisper graphics in the future. I know that there's a huge leak out from Game Freak, and we've seen some of the stuff, and it looks pretty good so far. It looks a lot more open, and it looks like it takes better advantage of the Switch 2's hardware. So I'm hoping that Pokemon will have a brighter future in that department, because graphically, these games oftentimes are not great looking. It's something that I'm very concerned about, because Pokemon is one of the biggest multimedia franchises in the world, and I think they can afford to up the ante when it comes to graphics. That's just me. All in all, I had a really great time with this game. I would give it a solid 8 out of 10. Um, there is a lot of repetitiveness to it, but if you can look past that, it's a lot of fun. The characters are a lot of fun. The story mode is pretty good, minus the part that I said, wasn't in that very beginning. And the gameplay loop is satisfying enough to keep you honestly losing yourself for hours in the game. And I think that's most important. Graphically, the game may not be the greatest, but I don't think that is in the biggest issue in the long run. And something else I'd really, really like to talk about with this game was the very clearly forced hate campaign about it. It's crazy to me that, and I'm actually going to throw a conspiracy theory out there. I fully believe the developers of the Digimon game that came out around the same time paid to have a hate campaign posted against this game, because it is all the same people that do this over and over again, the same Twitter grifters or ex-grifters that constantly have nothing positive to say about any game. But for some reason, they all at the same time became huge Digimon fans and just couldn't stand to look at how awful ZA was. The hate was incredibly forced. I even remember one of them was playing Digimon Time Strangers on stream and didn't know a single Digimon in the game. So it's very interesting that these people who are hyping up a game for a franchise they don't care about just so happened to become incredibly interested in it around the time that both games launched. I am calling that out. I fully believe Bandai, or whoever developed this, I believe it was Bandai, did pay these people to shit all over this game. Yes, I said it. I am making that accusation. These people were paid to hate this game. I saw people comparing enjoying this game to doing hardline drugs, and I think that's an insane comparison. I also wanted another reason that I think these people are paid to say this, because these are the same people that were paid by Sony and other companies to promote incredibly mid Souls-like clones over a year ago. Let's not forget Black Myth Wukong suddenly became their favorite game, despite the fact that it is nothing more than a bargain bin Souls game. And they also, for some reason, shilled for Stellar Blade for months and months and months, and nobody cares about or talks about either of those games anymore. The same way that just as fast as Digimon came, it's gone already as well. And these people that were begging you to buy it in place of Pokemon don't care about it anymore. They got their money, they got paid by the company, and they're on to hating the next game. These people are pathetic losers, and it is really upsetting that they're even getting paid to do this. And again, I understand this is just a conspiracy theory, but I feel like there is enough of a, that I feel like there's definitely a lot of solid evidence to the fact that they absolutely were. It's really crazy to me. It's just video games, and they're complete losers. And the upsetting part is I actually do agree with them on some points they make about the gaming industry and the incredibly poor direction it's been heading in. But this is just not one of them, and I believe they have actually abandoned their principles in favor of getting paid to hate on games that, well, they know that these companies know are going to blow their game out of the water, so they have to dampen the competition by doing this. I'm Terrible Shoes. Let me know what you think down below. All in all, I'm going to give this game an 8 out of 10, like I said before. Very fun game, definitely needs some improvement, but it is worth your time. Now, can't wait for the DLC. And again, it's not day one DLC like all the grifters were telling you. It's coming out in December now. And it looks very fun. I'm not a huge fan of roguelikes, which is what this seems to be. But I am going to give it a shot, and I will also post a review for the DLC after I've completed that as well. So, I'm Terrible Shoes. Thank you so much for checking me out today. I will, hopefully you're enjoying the game. If you are, let me know down below. And just comment anything down below. I really just want to know what your thoughts are regardless. So thank you for checking me out today, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching me.